everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm so excited to share that I'm embarking on a new reading adventure, which is Shannon Reads Those Books. And with this, I am taking on those books. And by that I mean those classic books, zeitgeist books, popular books, influential books, the books that people just, everyone seems to have read, or they think they've read, or they say they've read, or they actually have read, or and are referenced in, the stories that are repeated through time, those books. So I want to read them. I want to read them. Why not give them a go? It's funny, in the past couple years I've realized my reading, I've still been reading a fair amount, but I haven't been enjoying the books I've been reading as much. And instead of continuing this series or that series or trying that title or this random whatever, I thought, why not put a little more direction and structure there and go to the books that people really love and really have made an impact on the world for some reason or another. I don't know what those reasons are. That's the bit of the learning for me that this will be. And so why not do that? Like for me, when I was in high school, I was in like a weird kind of guinea pig year, and we often read something contemporary over a classic. And then I went to study art and fashion. There wasn't much required reading in those classes other than, about fashion and, well, in art there wasn't any required reading. So I ended up not reading that much, and now I'm like, well, why not read them now? There's no reason not to. So I put together this list from 5 other book lists, and they have titles from every genre, and it goes from BC to last year. Books from Catcher in the Rye to Lord of the Rings, from Beloved to Persuasion, from To the Lighthouse to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, from In the Skin of the Lion to Roughing It in the Bush. They're all over the place, from The Day of the Jackal to The Day of the Triffids, from The Odyssey to 100 Days of Solitude, and from Howl to Harry Potter. It's just all across the board, which is something that I feel that's important to get a very well-rounded look at things, and so that's why I went to so many different lists. The list that I picked, first one is the Modern Library's 1998 100 book list, which is apparently the first list of this kind, so I thought, well, gotta use that one. I also used a Librarian's voted in top 100 books, because hey, that's a good place to go for recommendations on books that you must read. Librarians definitely want their opinion. I also included the From Zero to Well Read list from Book Riot, because it sort of started my journey into thinking about this idea. What is well read? Am I well read? Probably not. Could I be well read? And it has titles that from classics to current and zeitgeist and all over the place, which I really like and think is important. And then for me, being Canadian, there are very few Canadian titles on any other list other than The Handmaid's Tale, which is on pretty much all the lists. And it's a good book, but I've read it. So I'm looking for other Canadian titles. I found a list of 25 Canadian classics and have included that in the big list. And then the last list I included was the BBC Big Reads from around 2003, and this one was voted in. People voted on what their favorite books were, and I thought it was important to keep that piece as well, that the public's opinion of books, and it has a lot of titles that are not on the other list. It also has ones that are entire series or what have you, or a huge chunk of a series, and that I had never even heard of some of them, so that I felt that was important too. So when you put that all together, it ended up being a total of 404 titles. And it's actually 438 books. I took a few liberties, like I added, the BBC one had like the first 4 Harry Potter, so I just added the last 3 because come on, like there's no, like, you might as well. And so it's 438 books, but on GoodReads it's 428 titles, because there's some that are like 4 books in one volume, and I always tried to pick the most voted on volume on GoodReads, because I felt that that was the most likely one that you would find, so that was my choice there. So I will share the GoodReads list in the down bar, as well as links to each of the individual lists. I'll try and share it in a different format later, in terms of just like an A to Z of the titles, but I can't, I'm stuck a little bit on the formatting, what would be best, because it feels like the most logical thing is actually to do it by time, like do it chronologically, but I don't understand the periods well enough, like, winter. So it makes that complicated. And I could do it by title, but that feels so random, and then by author it gets messy in terms of formatting. So I'll try to do other formats, but for right now I do have it on Goodreads, so that's where that is. So for me, my goals is really to enjoy these books, to enjoy this experience, to understand literature better, to understand the world better, in terms of being able to, see things from different perspectives and from different times and place and point of view and that kind of thing. And I'll admit, I also want to get the references when they come up in other books and TV and film, because I was kind of sick of feeling like I'm missing out on those kinds of things. So, but from what to expect from me, I will definitely do vlogs to review the books once I've read them, and I'll give thoughts on whether I liked it, whether I understood it, who I'd recommend it to, and maybe whether I think it should be on this list or not, or why it's on the list, or notable things. I don't like to do a lot of research before reading a book because I like it to unfold, but I know some of these are going to be challenging titles, so I'll have to sort of feel where my comfort zone and my habits might start to shift and change throughout this process, because it's quite an endeavor. I'm not actually going to give myself a deadline, and I'm not actually going to commit to reading all of the books, but if there's an author with multiple titles, I'll at least try one, and I will try to read all of the Canadian titles, or at least give them a go. So, because it's so many books, and books are a time investment, I feel like it's too heavy to say I'm going to read these 400 books. Even I feel like that. I love challenges, and I love lists, and I love things like this, but I think that might be a bit too much. But it's definitely, I'm going to give it a really good go and see how it goes. But I'm not going to force myself to read anything that I don't like. And there was at least 5 titles that I'm just not going to read. But it's 5 of 400, so come on, that's like what? 2%? I think that's okay. I'm going to give the other 399 titles a go. So I think that's okay. I do have one request, and that's that this is a pretty intimidating challenge for me, and a lot of the books I have no idea if I'll understand them, how accessible they'll be, and if I'll like them. So, and I haven't read a lot of them, so I'm just going to say, please don't judge me, and I won't judge you on what I have and haven't read, and what you have and haven't read, or what you like and don't like. I don't think there's any reason not to enjoy and value other people, like different opinions and other people's opinions, whether or not that you're coming from the same place, or even if you like the same things. It doesn't need to be the case. So there's definitely a lot of titles on here I haven't read. I was happy though to say that when I calculated it, I've read about 40 of the 404. There were some partials in there, but so 10% felt pretty good, and but that leaves a lot to pick from. Another 364. That's a lot. But yeah, I have no idea how it's going to work out. I'm sure some of the books will be challenging, especially some of the older titles, and then some of the other ones will be challenging because of the content. But I think that it'll be a lot of fun, and it'll take a lot of time to go through the ones that I want to read, or that I'm curious about, versus the ones that I know that I'm less likely to be interested in. But I do want to challenge myself, because that's part of the fun, that's part of the learning, and I want to learn more about literature and increase my vocabulary and all those wonderful things, and I think that this is really a great way to do it. So the next vlog I'll do will probably be the ones that I have read, so that you just have a sense of, it's mostly the science fiction, of course, and fantasy that eked on the list, but I'll definitely, just to give some thoughts on the ones that I have read, and then I'll get started on the ones that I haven't read. So I hope you enjoy this challenge, endeavor, adventure, and feel free to make your own list, or follow your own reading heart and see where it goes. All right, thanks so much for watching.